Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. My guest, Rita Moreno, is a renowned actress, singer, and dancer whose illustrious career spans over 70 years. She's also part of a very special group of artists called the EGOT winners. That's the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Awards, and she won all of hers as a performer. You know her from her countless film roles, including that of Anita in the original West Side Story, from television's The Electric Company and HBO's Oz, as Googie Gomez in Terrence McNally's hit comedy The Ritz on both stage and screen, and most recently from Norman Lear's hit television series One Day at a Time. She's also featured in Steven Spielberg's new film version of West Side Story. And now she is the subject of the new documentary called Rita Moreno, Just a Girl Who Decided to Go for It. Please say hello to Rita Moreno.
Hello, cutie.
She comes with history. Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony.
I was really drawn to her. She made me feel like a woman could do anything because she did. She was a Latina, like me.
She just brings such authority and such honesty to whatever she's playing.
Some people might view Rita Moreno as the embodiment of the American dream.
At the age of 16 years old, she was the sole breadwinner for her family.
Little Puerto Rican girl whom nobody thought much of at MGM with a contract.
This girl is present to me from Burma Prince.
I really was very often treated like a sex object.
The studio would ask contract players to go out on pretend dates.
Before I know it, he's forcing himself on me.
When you're under contract to a studio, they own you.
West Side Story seems to be the big one. What are you going to do for an encore now?
That's hard to follow.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there are wounds that simply don't heal well.
She made herself into somebody she wasn't for a very long time.
It really hurt her soul to have to play those characters in that way.
For the very first time in my life, I felt very useful.
She really cares about issues. And then she is just full of you-know-what and vinegar.
Wear your nationality like a flag. Be proud of it. Be proud you're Puerto Rican. Be proud you're
We always have to prove we're worthwhile. That's a lot of work.
At 87, with a hit show and a movie in the works, it's a remake of West Side Story with Latino actors in the lead role.
If we thought there was no place for us in this world of the arts that we wanted to get into, we could look up and see Rita and say, okay, well, she could do it. How close can I get?
Rita, you look gorgeous. First of all, I loved the film. It is so brilliant. First of all, how are you and where are you?
I'm at home. I'm at home and I'm in my office. Actually, it was my husband's office. And this is where the computer is, so this is where I am when I do Zooms. And home means Berkeley, California.
Beautiful. What's this year been like for you, Rita? I talk to stars all over the world, and everybody has a different version of it depending on if they live alone, if they're married, if they have kids, if they live in a house. Can you sum up what this last 14 months have been for you?
It's been revelatory, and it's a very odd thing to say, but at this point, I think people will understand that it's not meant to be what can I say, self-involved. I've been forced to look inside, but mostly to look outside. And I'm in love with, I live in a place where I can see all the bridges. I'm in Berkeley. And my view is all of the bridges and the ocean. And I live on a big high hill, so it almost looks like, not quite, but it almost looks like Tuscany when you look out my very large windows. I live in a house with enormously big windows. And wonderful things have happened. I don't remember being this happy, which is bizarre, because I also don't remember being this frightened for obvious reasons. And it's not just COVID, it's the political situation that's scaring the living daylights out of me. And, all that stuff being redone and the electoral votes and all that, is very disturbing. But I've also had a chance to just be. And I'm a woman who's been working since I was 5 years old. Truly, I used to do little shows here and there and Jewish weddings and stuff like that, playing my little castanets. So being forced to not perform has been truly fabulous. I never realized that could be so much fun and so gratifying. And one of the best things that have happened to me this year, aside from all the wonderful work, is being able to hug my friend Fernanda, my daughter. How we've got all that stuff behind us now, and it's just I tell you what, it makes you very appreciative. It makes you really smell the coffee, as they say. And I have a beautiful courtyard and lots of little birds and seeds all over the place. And all of that is new to me because I've never been at home much during the days. So there's a lot that I love. I cook a lot for myself. I don't mind cooking for myself. I have an assistant who helps me to do all kinds of stuff, especially she's tall so she can reach. I think that has to be on the resume.
You have to be
Tall
tall.
enough to reach. And she can carry heavy things for me because I am, after all, 89.
You
And
look
I'm going to be 90 in December. My birthday is December 10th. And the very next day, by the way, is when West Side Story opens, the new one.
Okay, we're going to get into all of that.
That's one of the long Moreno answers.
I love that. We're going to talk about that full circle moment. But first of all, how proud are you of this film? Because I thought I knew everything about you, and you let us in to so many personal sides of your life and career. How proud are you, Rita, of this?
I'm really very proud of it because it's not as though, in a way, that I had any influence on it. One of the things you give up when you decide to have at least I think that's the way it goes, when you have a documentary done about your life, is that they kind of, decide what's usable, what's not usable. And I'll tell you this, it took me a while to decide to do it. And then, because it's Norman Lear and Brent Miller, who is his producing partner, and Lin-Manuel Miranda, I felt I was in awfully good hands. And I did tell them, because it's a promise I made to myself, that I wanted very, very much to be as honest as I could possibly be. And it's one of the things, interestingly enough, that has impressed people, that it's so, in some ways, dramatically truthful. I mean, you can tell it's authentic. So I'm very happy about that. And that's what's gotten the most comment about this documentary, that it's very, what can I say, sincere?
Yeah. How proud would your wonderful mom be?
Oh, listen, I want my wonderful mom back. I've been wanting her back for a long time now. I miss her so much because of all of these successes and all of this new crazy notoriety. I mean, can you believe it? This woman's going to be 90 in a few months, really. And all of these super lovely things have happened to me and for me. My mom and my husband, it's just, he was one of those people who just couldn't understand why my career wasn't more advanced. He just was angry about that. And he should see me now. It would be, if they could see me now, that little gang of mine, it would be wonderful.
Just love that you
for 1 hour.
Yeah, I just love that you were the showbiz family, because I met your husband, I think it was at the Algonquin, when he was doing your lights. And I thought to myself, it's all in the family. And he was a doctor.
And he's a doctor. He was a retired doctor. And one time when my lighting guy was unable to show up, he took over. It doesn't mean he was brilliant, but he said, I'm going to, because I remember saying to him, you're going to do the lights? Lenny, you can't even count. And what that means, but you know what that means, but most people don't know what that means. It means that you have to be able to fade out to the count of 10 and then the light, the spotlight goes out. And his answer to me was, Rita, some lights are better than no lights. And I said, Lenny, you're not just kidding. Okay, go forth. And he actually learned to do wonderful lights. This doctor person.
But your daughter was in your act too. That's what I love too. I mean, I love you took everybody on the road.
Well, Fernanda did a lot of dancing stuff with me. I did a lot of concerts where I danced and sang. And we did America together. And actually, we performed at one of the very first, if not the first, big gay concert to help AIDS. I'll tell you how long ago that was. The newsreel people from TV came to take some shots, and they actually said to me, why are you doing this? Like it was...
it was something new.
Oh, it was very new. And, soon thereafter, I think Elizabeth Taylor began to get involved, and that got a lot of publicity.
Yeah.
But that first, and I said to Fernanda, because the audience was so fabulous, they were grateful and happy, and they were an insane audience. They were cheering all over the place. And I said to Fernanda after the concert, I said, don't ever expect to get this kind of reception again, ever. This ain't gonna happen.
That is amazing. But that takes me into, how did taking dance lessons very early in your life change everything for you?
It did, because it actually, what it did do was lead me to other things, singing and then acting. Acting came last. But when I say last, I'm talking about being, being 10 years old on Broadway, that kind of thing.
So dancing changed everything for you.
But it really did, absolutely. And I was a Spanish dancer, which means castanets, which, by the way, I still play.
Because you were the breadwinner in your family at what, 16?
Well, I helped. I won't say I was the breadwinner, but I did help a lot. Yeah, I went out to different parts of the country to do my little Spanish dances, and they were all joints because I was underage. It's the only place where you could get away with, being under 18.
Yeah.
And I remember that in one nightclub, some cops showed up one night. And the boss came over and ran over to me, and he sat me in the far corner of the nightclub with his wife's mink coat on and a Coke in front of me, but also a martini. So, I mean, we had a couple of narrow ones like that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I want to talk about the MGM years for a minute because, I love the story that Louis B. Mayer gave you a contract. You and your mom went to the Waldorf Astoria. That's a fabulous section.
Meet him. Isn't that a great story?
Trying to get to the
We never heard of the Waldorf Astoria. I mean, let's just start there. This talent scout who had seen me in a dancing school recital, I said, when Louis B. Mayer comes to town, I want you to meet him to meet you. And we never even heard of, we didn't know what a Waldorf Astoria was. And I remember that my mother, we didn't know how to get to Louis B. Mayer. So we go to the desk and my mother says, we want to see Louis B. Mayer. And the lady says, excuse me, Louis B. Mayer, we want to see Louis B. We have an appointment. And she said, okay, you go to the elevator and press P. And I remember we were puzzled, P for penthouse. And I mean, how do you press P in an elevator? What's a P? That's what it was.
You learned.
I learned.
So I know you got to Hollywood and I know the kind of roles you played, but when you did Singing in the Rain, did you think right after that the type of roles you were playing would change?
I did, because I thought, well, for one thing, Gene Kelly put a red wig on me, and I was playing the part of a movie star named Zelda Zander. It's a little part, but and I wore very light makeup, and boy, that was probably the last time I would wear light makeup for many, many, many years, because from then on it was native girls. But I really thought, wow, I think if everything's going to be okay, I'm going to be able to play, real girls. Didn't happen that way.
Well, you have been a trailblazer to so many people who looked, you were who they saw on screen. I mean, all my Latino friends growing up and everybody else, they were like, it was you, it was Cheetah. There were so few people, especially on screen, everybody looked up to you. And I wonder what that means to you.
When you say everybody, we should make it clear to the audience that everybody really meant the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
It's not everybody.
Yeah.
But, so what's your question?
See, that was it. I should have said Hispanic community. I just sort of put it all. I mean, the Hispanic community looked up to you. You were who they saw up there, but in every different way. I mean, in activism. I mean, the great thing about watching this documentary is I can't believe that everything you went through, a lot of people are still going through today.
It's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shocking, and it's depressing. If you really let that get to you, don't let that get to you. But it is so strikingly close to what I was living through. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
The difference is that now nobody's ashamed of trying to kill people of color. Now it's been made all right by an administration that damn near sunk us. And I don't even know if we've really if we're above water yet. Yeah. It's so frightening. It's so scary.
At what part of your career, your life, did you realize you were a trailblazer to the Hispanic community?
Oh gosh, that took me forever. Really, nobody was calling me a trailblazer. Yeah. And you certainly don't start out to be one. You don't start out to be a star. But you start out wherever it is that you have to start out. And that took years. A lot of people would say in the Latino community would say to me, we really think you're very important. And I could never believe that because I had been de-importantized by so many people for so many years that I honestly didn't believe it. I remember when I was told that very likely I was going to be nominated for West Side Story, and I didn't believe them. I said, nah, come on. And he couldn't believe that I couldn't believe it. He said, really? You can see that movie and not see yourself being nominated? I said, not at all. So that's the kind of person I've been for a very, very long time.
Well, you've just had a full circle moment with West Side Story, of course, winning the Academy Award for playing Anita in the original film, and now being a part of Steven Spielberg's new version. I mean, how life-changing.
How crazy is that?
Seriously, when you would never think that West Side would be remade, and then for you to be in his version, how life-changing were both of these films for you?
Oh my goodness, completely. Obviously the first one also got me not only 2 nominations, but I won. People keep saying the Oscar, but they forget about the Golden Globe. I got the Golden Globe for that also. And it made my name known worldwide. I mean, it wasn't Rita Hayworth, but it was Rita Moreno. And now the new one, when Steven called me, remember my agent saying, Steven Spielberg wants to talk to you. And I said, who? He said, yeah, you heard right, Steven Spielberg. And then I said, why? I mean, it really didn't occur to me. I had heard he was going to do the movie, by the way, but I still didn't connect. Anyway, can I give him your number? And I said, yeah, definitely, yes. And he called and told me what he was doing and that he was very interested in having me play a part in the movie. And he told me that Tony Kushner wrote the script. And for those people who don't know, Tony Kushner wrote Angels in America, among other great plays. And I remember saying to him, I'm so flattered, but if you don't mind, I really don't like the idea of playing a cameo, and especially in your film. I said, I think it would be such a distraction. And he said, no. He said, it's a real part. And I said, really, a real part? He said, yes, you're Doc's widow. Doc is the fellow who ran the candy store that the Jets hung out in. And I'm his widow, Valentina, beautiful name. And then I said, well, would you send me a script? He said, of course, which was one of about 20, because Tony Kushner is famous for rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. And I have a bunch of those. But yes, it was so thrilling. Did you see the trailer on the Oscars for West Side Story?
Goosebumps.
Did you recognize my voice?
Yes, I do. Yes, I did.
I had no idea. I started to scream like a banshee because Steven sent it to me. He said, since you're going to be a presenter at the Oscars, he said, you should know that we're going to do the very first trailer. And he said, I want you to see it so that you can help promote it when you can, Oscar night. And my daughter and I sat there, and when I heard my voice, there's a play, I almost peed my knickers. I screamed my head off. Unbelievable. Because I was keeping that a big, big, big secret.
And that's a big secret to keep too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be mind-blowing for you to, like I said, to what you experienced in the original film and then to now play this new role and how beautifully written, because Doc...
And having people pay a different kind of attention to me. That's what's so crazy. And, you know, becoming an executive producer on Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, it's beyond crazy. And it's probably one of the happiest times of my life. He corrected a lot of he and Tony. I always mention Tony because Tony's a very political person too. And they wanted to be sure that every person who's playing Hispanic is Hispanic. And they did something extraordinary. They called the University of Puerto Rico and asked them if they could do some panel talks there about the movie. And just invite anybody they wanted to. It was open to anybody. No ticket sales, nothing. But they just wanted to talk about this new West Side Story, and they wanted people's input, Puerto Rican people's input. They couldn't believe it. Actually, they ended up doing this twice. And, you know, there were people there who said I didn't like the movie because I thought it was, you know, some parts of it were racist, and it may not have been deliberate, but some part of it, you know, everybody had the same color. Puerto Ricans, you know, are Dutch, Spaniards, they're French, and what did I miss? There's something else. They're from every other country. So that's why I can be fair and my aunt can be, you know, charcoal.
I cannot wait to see this new film with the incredible cast, and just the energy from that trailer alone is so...
Our Maria is really she's 17. She was. She's 17, the way Maria's supposed to be. The sharks are Hispanic. Some of them are Puerto Rican, some of them are Guatemalan, whatever, but they're Hispanic. That's what counts. So it's amazing.
You know, Rita, you talk very candidly in this film about your relationship with Marlon Brando and your attempted suicide. You know, there are so many people who have tried to work through these things through their entire lives with suicide and everything else. Some have been able to move past it. Some weren't so lucky. Can I just ask you, what got you past that? How did you work through that to move on?
I always credit any improvements in my character and in the way I think to one of the best psychotherapists. I mean, I don't know if he was the best, but he was great for me. And I speak about psychotherapy in the most positive way because I think it's the only thing that would have helped me.
Yeah.
What is amusing about that, and of course, I think I mentioned it in the in documentary. It's that Marlon was the one who said, "You need help." Did I mention that in the?
I thought you said he needs help.
No, what I said was one loony telling the other that they need help.
Yeah.
But he was right. He was right.
But
and it's the thing that helped me the most in life. Dealing with life, dealing with my character, who I am, has been it really, really, I have the deepest faith in this process.
Well, I thank you for sharing that part of this because I mean,
Well, I think I shared it because I think it's so important.
yeah, yeah. You know, also the electric company growing up again, you know, the Hispanic community, people saw themselves for the first time. All of my friends would come over and watch this show. Did you know the impact you were having with that show when you were doing it with Morgan Freeman and everybody else?
Absolutely, we did. We did. We thought, as the producers thought, that it was desperately needed, and not just for Hispanic kids, but for kids, period, kids in the ghetto. And it helped immensely the reading skills of young kids who had just left Sesame Street for a more, slightly more grown-up shows. And yes, I do know. And I can tell you, too, that at that time, Bill Cosby contributed a great deal to it. He was a very, very funny man. And we won't even talk about his past because why? But he joined it, and he joined it out of interest. To me, it was a community. You know what it was to me? Because first of all, it didn't pay that much. It was a community service. That's how I've always thought of the electric company. Teaching children to read, like Mr. Rogers taught you about life. I loved him. We were on his show once. Fernanda, my daughter, who was a little girl, and my husband were on Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. Well, you changed a lot of people's lives. And like you said, all these kids learned to read. So many people learned to read.
You know what? My husband's Tante Shirley, Jewish Tante Shirley, calls me up one day. She says, Rita, darling. She says, I want you to know, I can't do a Jewish accent to save my life. I'm trying. She says, I want you to know I was in the supermarket today and I read this. I read A Can of Peas. I read peas. Rita, what do you think? It was wonderful. Tante Shirley was reading Cans of Peas. And Warren.
That is great. You know, we have to mention Terrence McNally. I know he was a dear friend of mine. I know he was a very, very dear friend of yours. I mean, you won your Tony Award for Googie Gomez in his hit comedy, The Ritz. How did you come up with that character? Was it at a party?
It was during West Side Story. Dancers, when they get a 10-minute break, do two things. And I have a feeling not too much has changed, which is why they call us Gypsy. We're raucous people. We love to laugh. We love to do bits. And we were all smoking, and we always light up. I mean, it's just insane. And we had lit up, and we were doing funny little things to break each other up. And then I said, wait, I have an idea. Okay, this girl is a Puerto Rican girl who's auditioning for a bus and truck of Gypsy. And I literally went, I had a dream about you, baby. And everybody laughed. I laughed. So after that, I started doing this character who didn't even have a name. And I did it at a party where Terrence McNally, it was Jimmy Coco's party. And I was doing a play with James Coco on Broadway at the time, Last of the Red Hot Lovers, Neil Simon's play. And Jimmy said, do that crazy character for Terrence, because he and Terrence were very close. And I did. Everything's Coming Up Roses. And then I did the Player King speech. The Shakers do the speech, I pray Joe, as I pronounce it to Joe, trippingly on the tongue. And what's hilarious about Googie, I think, is that she really has this oversized image of who she is. She really thinks she's God's gift. And I love playing people like that who are extremely vain. I love playing vanity because usually people who are that vain are also kind of dumb in a way. They're stupid.
I just watched the film the other day too. I love the film. I
did?
I love to watch it.
You know what? I have to see it one of these days.
Oh, you'll holler through the thing. Sit with your daughter, with
great
your
play.
Whatever. They'll fall in love with it all over again. You know, I want to ask you about playing Sister Peter Marie on Oz. I mean, I fell in love with that show. That show first scared me when it first came on until I realized that it wasn't really real. I mean, I loved that show, but I had to watch the first season without the sound on. I know it may sound very strange, but then I was like, oh, it's a TV show.
But you know what? You're not alone. A lot of people loved it, but it would get so violent that they'd leave the room and then literally peek out the door and see if it was safe to come back in. It was a very violent show, but it was also something way more than that. It was very profound and very deep. And it was about really the human condition in many ways. Sister Peter Marie Raimondo, I loved her character. She's a nun. I mean, can you imagine someone casting me as a nun? But you see, that shows imagination. That's what being a creative producer is about. That's why Norman Lear also was such a great creative producer with all of his shows, because he took chances. I don't even know that he felt he was taking chances. He would just say, that's interesting casting. Let's put that person in this show. And Tom Fontana to this day remains the closest friend I have, and someone I truly, truly, genuinely love. Not show business. I love him. Oh, I love him.
Yeah.
I love him. He's a wonderful human being.
Like I said,
He's doing City on the Hill right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, his stuff is brilliant. But just that character he wrote for you was just so beautifully thought out, so flawed, so everything. It was such a beautiful, beautiful character you played.
My favorite part, one of the best episodes for me, was when she falls in love with Chris Maloney's character. But you know whose idea that was? Well, his and mine. After the first season, I grabbed him before we all separated and went our own ways. And I said, I had an idea this morning. What do you think of this? And I said, Sister Peter Marie gets a crush on one of her patients, but he's an older man. He's older. He's not Chris Maloney. I wasn't thinking Chris Maloney. And I said, wouldn't it be fun to deal with it? How does a nun deal with these sexual feelings? And he said, oh, I love that. I said, great, okay. But instead, because he's who he is, Tom Fontana, he put me with a sexual predator. He gives me a crush on Chris Maloney's character, which was wonderful. And Chris and I had the best time because he just adored the fact that we had this great chemistry. He couldn't believe it, that this older woman, that we had great chemistry.
But you could see, we believed it totally. I mean, it was a shock when it first came out. I was like, oh, who wouldn't fall in love with him? I mean, and you too. I mean, I just thought that was so brilliantly done too. Really beautiful. You mentioned Norman Lear. I mean, One Day at a Time, Lydia. Norman Lear is very special too. Tell me what he means to you, Rita.
He really means just about everything. I think in another life, I would have made a great wife for him. I don't know how else to put it, which doesn't mean that in any way I feel that way, but that we have such an incredible and profound rapport. We really do. We make each other laugh. He is the dearest man in life. Yeah. And we have enormous appreciation of each other. And I think we probably would have been terrific partners when we were younger.
Yeah. Finally, what do you hope people take away after seeing your film?
My documentary.
Yes.
More than anything, I hope they get the message which was really Norman and Brent Miller's, that's the other producer, intent, which is that you can survive just about anything. You just need the will, and you need, I guess, courage. I never thought of myself as a courageous person because I am truly one of the most fearful persons I know. But because I'm so fearful, I push myself and don't allow myself to be afraid to the extent that it's detrimental. I did for years. And that's where, therapy came in handy too. But I had no opinions whatsoever, none. I was afraid to, because somebody was going to say, listen, you little spick, who do you think you are? And I was called all kinds of names much of my life. So again, that therapy was absolutely necessary for me, or I probably would have ended my life sooner and probably been successful.
But you know what, though? Looking back, like I said, there's that word trailblazer. I mean, you didn't think about it then, but like I said, again, watching this documentary, the parallels between everything you went through, what people are still going through, or whatever, and looked up to you. You know, you're this survivor that, you know.
But you know what's also interesting about this documentary? It is so relevant right now.
Oh,
Right now, the women's movement, all of that, because I wasn't that kind of person. And I learned to be brave, but it's so much a part of today. This a documentary about an almost 90-year-old woman. It's fascinating to me, truly.
yeah. So you're almost 90 years old. How do you stay 90 years young? You seem so vibrant. What is the secret? Like, what do you do every day?
You know, I think it's so much a part of my character. I think a sense of humor has a great deal to do with it. I mean, I think I could almost think of laughing as my hobby. Honestly, I love to laugh. I love to be amused. I could never have married a man didn't have not just a good sense of humor, but a great sense of humor. My husband was extremely funny and witty, is what he really was. And it was meant to be. So that's part of my makeup, my DNA. I love to laugh. I laugh at listen, when I had the reaction to my second vaccine shot, it was 9 o'clock at night, and I was watching the news and eating in my kitchen on a counter, and my hands began to tremble. And then it turned into like a palsy-like tremble. And I'm a person who talks to herself. I've always talked to myself out loud, out loud. And I remember saying, well, Rita, here it is, kiddo. It's the reaction. And it turned into this fevered, crazy woman. But that's who I am. I tell myself jokes and I laugh at them. Really. My mom did this. Well, I said that in the documentary. She just suddenly said, no sé por qué esta cosa está pasando, pero bueno, ni modo. I'd hear her, she murmured a lot out loud.
And you never think that would happen to you, and then all of a sudden, here you are sitting at the kitchen table or whatever, doing the same thing your mom did.
Doing the same thing, talking to myself constantly. I am my own best company, probably.
That's the best. Like I said, the time has flown by. I could sit with you all day long, just so you know that. You have brought so much joy to so many people. And like you said, the documentary is so relevant today. And it opens in movie theaters on June 18th. How excited are you about that? The movies again.
And it's on Masterpiece Theater. Is it on the Masters? I mean, American Masters. And is that another date or is that the same date?
We're going to put it all in the pre-intro.
Because it's going to be on American Masters. They're one of the producers as well, presenters. So that's very important.
Oh, American Masters, PBS, they do such a beautiful job.
They
You're
sure do.
in a good company, like you said. When I mentioned about your mom, she like calling you her little doll, and now here you are sitting up there with these American Masters. So, right?
I know, and you want so much. Give me 1/2 hour, God, even on the phone, and let me talk to my mom and my husband and tell them what wonderful things have happened.
Oh, they're looking down on you. Believe me, Rita. I believe it. They're looking down on you.
I don't believe that.
You
I
don't?
wish I could. No.
Oh, it's all right.
When somebody says, well, your mom is on your shoulder, and I just say, no, she's not. My mom is dead.
All right.
I don't believe that. You believe that? Really? Do you?
I really do. I've had.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, but I just think watching this and what you said in the documentary of just all your leaving and never coming back, going back, leaving part of your family there and coming to New York and then going to Hollywood. What a journey you've been on. But your activism more than anything. Here you were, this fearful person, yet you used your voice to help so many people and continue to do so. That's so important.
What's so interesting about that is that I remember thinking when I was being asked early on in my life, and I had Fernanda, who's just a baby. Well, I don't believe I'm such a hot shot, but if they do, I have an obligation to give them some kind of inspiration. That's why I did it. Not necessarily because I believed that I could influence them. I really honestly didn't believe that. But I thought if they think so, then I'm doing it.
Because you were all there for the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech, right? Weren't you all there?
I was there. I was 15 feet from the man. I saw, oh God, Jackson, what's her, the gospel singer?
Mahalia.
Mahalia. I saw her say to him, tell him about the dream, Martin. Martin, tell him about the dream. He had another prepared speech, and he listened to her, and he put his speech down, and he said, I have a dream. Man, I can never forget. I mean, I'm a mess of goosebumps right now. I'm a mess of goosebumps.
I am too. Like I said, that I'm leaving you on that, Rita. I adore you. I will see you in New York very, very soon.
Yes.
I'll see you at Tribeca. Take care, everybody, and go see the film, the documentary. Take care, my love.